We are live. We're going to wait a few moments, and it looks like we are ready and up and going. Sorry we're late, y'all. Appreciate you joining us. I already see Emily and Dan are watching us. Thanks for watching. How are you today, Max?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me back. Yeah, we're only a minute late, so from a compliance perspective, I think we're probably pretty good.
Well, good. I'm glad we're not getting dinged for that. So we're going to be having Kirsten join us pretty soon here. We're having a little technical difficulties, but she will be up pretty soon. So what are we going to be talking today about, Max? Let's talk about compliance and what do we got going on?
Yeah, so today we're going to specifically be talking about the big hidden opportunity when it comes to compliance, and that's really around cyber insurance. So when it comes to the Compliance Manager product, we support different standards, and one of those is really a service offering that you can do around compliance. So when it comes to compliance, compliance, when it comes to cyber insurance, the challenge isn't cyber insurance. Getting it is pretty easy. It's relatively inexpensive. The really hard part is getting a full payout. And so very few cyber insurance policies pay out fully. And the reason being is because when you sign up for a cyber insurance policy, part of the terms and conditions is that in the event of a data breach, you have to provide what's called due care. So evidence of due care. And in layman's terms, I mean, just you're maintaining the environment, you're patching it, all the things that MSPs typically do. But without evidence, if you have a breach, there's a high likelihood that the insurance company is not going to pay you out fully. So once again, we're not trying to tell MSPs they need to be in the insurance business. You definitely don't want to be in the insurance business if you can avoid it, because there's a lot of regulations and so on. But what MSPs are doing is they're offering a service around an insurance policy so that in the event of a breach, they can provide evidence of compliance of due care, and then they can maximize their end customers' payout.
Now, what were MSPs utilizing before insurance, cyber insurance?
Well,
because they're probably still doing the same thing, right? There's probably a lot of them that are not.
Well, as of today, so the latest statistic I saw is that roughly 68% of companies don't have any cyber insurance, which to me is that's absolutely amazing. In my opinion, every single MSP out there should have cyber insurance, but at the same time, every single company should have cyber insurance. And that was before the whole COVID-19. Now with all your work from home users, obviously those home offices aren't set up to work from home. Everybody just kind of scrambled. And so, you're exposing yourself to more risk, more liability. Cyber criminals are hacking everybody. And obviously it's easier if everybody's working from home. So the point is that the end customer should have some amount of cyber insurance. And the reality is that MSPs weren't offering any type of solution around this. So if an end customer ended up having a data breach and they didn't have cyber insurance, either the end customer was going to pay for that cost, which was really expensive, or the MSP was going to have to eat the cost of them having to remediate the service and get that customer back online. So, a good cyber insurance policy is the MSP's best defense, because a good policy will actually pay for the MSP's services if they have to remediate.
So let me see if I understand this. You basically would give the policy to the MSP as a client. Do they then sell the policy to their client, or is it something that they automatically include as a service for signing up with them?
Okay, so actually that's a great question. So apparently I wasn't very clear. So MSPs have multiple options, and some companies already have a cyber insurance policy. So it's not about the policy itself. It's really about, for MSPs, it's about wrapping a service around that policy. So an MSP can go into a customer, if they already have an existing cyber insurance policy, they can wrap a service around ensuring and providing evidence of due care. If they don't have a policy, one of the benefits of partnering with Kirsten and her organization, Cysurance, is that they are a broker. They have binding authority. So they can literally, with about 3 clicks inside the Compliance Manager software, bind a policy for their end customer. The policy is still bound between the end customer and the underwriter. And in our case, it's Chubb. Chubb is the largest cyber insurance underwriter in the world. So once again, the MSP is not in the cyber insurance business, but they can bind a policy through our software. Once the end customer has that policy, then MSP is wrapping the service around that policy.
Gotcha.
Yep. And I'll just have another thing. I'm sorry. So I have seen MSPs as part of their managed service offering. They will actually include a policy. The MSP will pay for that policy, and that'll just be wrapped in the price that they charge for their standard managed service offering.
Right, because I would imagine that at the end user, the client would be, well, that isn't that what I have you for? To make sure that I don't get in trouble, right? So
Precisely.
that'd be kind of a tough gig to sell, I would think. So wrapping it within the main price would probably be a good idea. Um, One of the questions that just came up is, do the policies also cover your MSP clients and clients if they get affected?
So again, there's two. We're talking about two kinds of policies. So one, the
Okay.
MSP should have their own policy,
Okay.
and then the end customer should also have their own policy. So, in the event that the MSP has a data breach, then they're going to file a claim against their own internal policy. In the
Mhm.
event that the end customer has a data breach, they're going to file a claim on the end customer's cyber insurance policy. And what we're saying through Compliance Manager and our partnership with CySurance is that you can bind a policy for either the MSP yourself or for your end customer directly through our software, and then offer a service around that for your end customer.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, is that insurance policy that's going to the end user, is that under the MSP's name, or is it going to say Cy Insurance?
It's actually going to say Chubb. So there
Okay.
are kind of the way that it works. It's multi-tiered. So there's lots of brokers out there. There's thousands of brokers. Of course, none as good as CySurance, but there's lots of brokers out there. But there's probably about 24 major underwriters. So you've got Chubb, you've got Beasley, you've got Travelers. We've got applications in our software for just about all of them. But with the integration that we've done with CySurance, then you don't have to worry about any of those applications. Like I said, literally, you just click a couple buttons in Compliance Manager. You don't have to go through any additional underwriting, no health checks, nothing like that. You click a button to submit, and then what that will do is that'll bind the policy from Chubb directly to the end customer. So in fact, one of the major benefits of this is that Chubb has an incident response desk and a breach notification desk. So if the customer does have a breach, then either the customer or the MSP can call Chubb's help desk anytime they want, and
Mhm.
they'll support them.
That's definitely very useful. So let me back up for a little bit because I know we're still waiting for Kirsten to come on board, but I don't want to, just in case of any technical difficulties. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Kirsten and insurance and how that ties into the compliance part of Kaseya?
Sure. So Kirsten's the CEO of CySurance. When it comes to cyber insurance, I've never met anybody who's more knowledgeable about the product and all the services out there as Kirsten. So again, I'm going to probably make this a dumbed down version. So I apologize. I'm not a cyber insurance expert, but what happened was with Compliance Manager, we actually launched a cyber insurance module in around September of last year. And we had interest in it, but the challenge is that because a lot of MSPs are also not insurance experts, and we don't want them to be, or they don't need to be, it was just difficult for them to wrap their head around what type of insurance they needed. There's lots of types of insurance. So you've got traditional E&O, so errors and omissions. Again, every MSP and every company should have some amount of E&O insurance. But once again, the challenge with the insurance is that cyber insurance is pretty easy to get. Even today, it's still relatively inexpensive. The hard part is getting a payout when there's a breach, because there's all these things that you're supposed to do. And I mentioned, the technical term in the insurance world is called due care, so that you get your full payout. And I'll kind of give you an example, like, I guess the most famous one right now is that Target had their 2013 data breach. They had millions of dollars in E&O insurance. And when they filed a $74 million claim with their underwriter. And the underwriter said, well, this was a cyber event. This wasn't an E&O event. And so they refused to pay. So Target actually filed a lawsuit in November against their cyber insurance underwriter. And now, it's going to go through court and spend the next 10 years in court, but it was $74 million, and then you get paid. So what ended up happening was we launched the module. We had a lot of interest. And then kind of the big feedback we got from our MSPs was, hey, I don't know all these brokers. I don't know all the terms. I don't know all the riders. Could you guys make it easier for us to actually bind a quality insurance policy? So that's when we got together with Kirsten and CySurance. She helped us build out exactly what we needed. So before we even partnered with her on the delivering of the policy, she helped us with the actual building out of the module itself and what was required for due care. And then we integrated her website directly into our software. So CySurance is a binding authority. So an MSP does have to be an insurance company. Once they click, they're binding that through the authorization that CySurance has. And it's a great policy. Again, I wish Kirsten was here. She'd go over all the details of it, but she can provide E&O insurance. She can provide cyber insurance, and she can help MSPs, because that's her focus is really in the MSP space of how to actually build out and sell and price and position a compliance as a service.
Right. Well, I could hear her coming through. I haven't seen her pop in yet, so I'm waiting for her camera to turn on so that I can go ahead and start showing her in the stream. But my next question to that, to add to the mistake that Target made, what are some of the mistakes that MSPs are making when they're buying cyber insurance?
So typically what they're doing is they're working with the same broker that they buy their car insurance from and their home insurance from, and even their E&O insurance from, and they're not experts when it comes to cyber insurance, because there's lots of different caveats and riders and things like that their broker may not be aware of because they're not an expert in cyber insurance. So I mentioned, one of the best ways an MSP can protect themselves is that if their customer has a good cyber insurance policy and the customer has a data breach, all the hours that the MSP spends remediating that customer, they can get refunded from the cyber insurance policy. So they can file a claim, for let's just say it took them 40 hours to recover that customer, get their data back up, and so on. But not all cyber insurance policies have that. So if an MSP doesn't have the right, or if the end customer doesn't have the right policy and the MSP spends 40 hours, I mean, obviously MSPs don't want to work for free in a normal environment. They absolutely can't do that in this particular environment. So, if their cyber insurance policy doesn't have that, they're either having a conversation with the customer saying, hey, you've got to pay me for 40 hours worth of time and materials, which I'm sure is not going to be a very comfortable conversation considering that the customer was breached, or the MSP is going to have to eat that cost. So, right. So again, that's one of the things, that's one of the major issues. Another major issue, and not necessarily around the policy itself, but when it comes to just having a data breach and cyber insurance, if your customer has a data breach, you don't want to be talking to that customer's end users, or even worse, the customer's insurance, the end user's insurance company or their lawyers. And that's why I mentioned this whole cyber incident breach notification or breach policy desk that Chubb has. Chubb's been doing this. They're a multi-billion, trillion-dollar company. If your customer has a data breach and a lawyer contacts them, you don't want to be talking to them. You send them to Chubb. Chubb's got their lawyers and, insurance companies, and they'll talk about it and they'll negotiate and they'll take care of that themselves. And one of the things I see is that the MSP gets involved in that conversation, and unless the MSP is an attorney, those don't usually go very well. Right.
So how much involvement does the MSP have when getting a quote, or does Chubb handle all of that, or does Kirsten handle that specifically?
So literally getting a quote, if I had the software, you go in and you say, what industry is your customer in? So let's pick the healthcare industry or finance, whatever it is, and how much insurance are you looking to bind? And so you can bind up to $2 million through our software. I think it's a 250, 500 million, and a $2 million policy. You click the amount of coverage you want, and it gives you a real-time price right on the screen. So you select it, you click next, you fill out a very basic form. As soon as you click bind, the policy is bound immediately, and you have 30 days to start paying. So again, in this particular time, you get the cyber insurance policy immediately, and then you get 30 days before you start paying. So if you are comfortable with that process, maybe it takes you about 90 seconds, 2 minutes to fill out, and you've bound the policy. And of course, if you need assistance, Kirsten and her team are just fantastic. They can go over all the details and what's included, what's not included, and so on.
That's fast. That's faster than me getting a car insurance quote.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It really is. You don't have to put in your VIN number. You don't have to put in where you live, or is nope. They just fill out a really basic form, and that policy is bound immediately.
Wow. One of the questions that you've already answered it was if CyInsurance was part of the Casaya family, which we've already, so that they're brokering and their products gets integrated to your product, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So CyInsurance is an independent broker. Again, Casaya is not in the insurance business. I don't recommend any MSP be in the insurance business. The moment you get into the insurance business, there's lots of regulations. You got to be a certified insurance broker and SEC and so on. So, and again, to be clear, Casaya does not make 1 penny of markup on any type of cyber insurance policy that's sold. From an MSP perspective, you're also not allowed to make any money on the policy itself. So if you're being charged $200 for your customer's policy, you have the ability through CySurance and through Compliance Manager software to either have Chubb bill the end customer directly or to bill the MSP, and the MSP can pass through that cost. But you don't want to mark it up, because then you start becoming an insurance company. What you want to do is you want to make your revenue around the service that you're going to provide around it.
Now, the MSP, because they're obviously not insurance, they're not insurance certified, and they're not able to obviously sell the insurance. How are they, how do you say, how are they going to be explaining exactly what the cyber insurance is that they're providing to the end user? Do they have Kirsten to call on and help explain that to their client? Or how difficult have you seen that happening with the MSPs that have signed up so far?
Yeah, so it's actually a really, really simple process. I mean, besides the fact that Kirsten is absolutely available, obviously she's the CEO. She has multiple employees that work for her under CySurance that know everything you probably ever wanted to know about insurance. So they're available. We've got tons of collateral. So we have playbooks, we have run books, we have sales slicks. Again, just lots of collateral that actually explain what's included in the insurance policy, what to look out for. So it's all available. It's a really simple process. Again, when it comes to insurance, people get the idea of insurance, and then really it's just kind of getting into the weeds. And so what Kirsten does and what the policy that she provides is really a great policy that covers everything an MSP really needs in order to protect themselves and to protect the customer. Right.
Okay. So Kirsten's about to get online. I see a camera popping up, an image. She should be here soon. So one of the things to be clear, the insurance is based on how much money you want it to be covered, correct?
So the insurance, there's effectively 2 criteria. What industry is the customer in? So there's different levels. So financial and healthcare. Actually, healthcare is the highest risk level. It literally says high. If you're in the education space, it's going to be low. But it's what industry is the customer in, and what's the customer's annual revenue. Based off of those 2 things, then the price is going to be based off of the amount of coverage that you're going to have. So again, just to give an example, if somebody's in the healthcare industry, so it's a doctor, they're doing $1.5 to $4 million in revenue. If you want to bind a $1 million policy, it's going to cost you $300 a month. If you want to bind a $500,000 policy, it might cost $200 per month.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes it very easy, definitely. And Kirsten was there, and now she's not. I don't know what happened. I was about to put her in. Well, okay. So one of the questions that just came up was, since you're the wheelhouse as a compliance manager and the compliance side of it, how does compliance and cyber insurance work together?
Yeah. So again, in the software itself, if you wanted to bind the policy, just click a button inside the software and you can bind the policy. Once you've bound the policy, or again, even if the customer has an existing policy, so it doesn't have to be through CySurance, despite that we made it easy to do so. If a customer already has a policy, what Compliance Manager does is Compliance Manager installs a piece of software in the customer's environment. It then audits the customer's environment. And when we say due care, specific things around due care, does the customer have a patch policy? So that's required for all the different insurance underwriters out there. Does the customer have password policies? Do they have open network shares, things like that? So that's what Compliance Manager does. It scans the environment, finds 40 to 80% of the data that's required to provide evidence of due care. And then once it gets that data, it maps it to a step-by-step task list where you're just literally filling out worksheets, you're answering some questionnaires, and then it builds out all the required documentation. So when it comes to compliance, I say it's about the 2 Ds, data and documentation. So the first thing we do is we automate the collection of the data. We then map it to a task, step-by-step list of things that you have to do. And then we produce all the required documentation so that if you have a data breach, what you're doing is we have a document called the cyber risk analysis. You're taking that, you're taking your cyber response plan, you're taking your controls. So there's evidence of controls document, and that's what you're sending to the insurance company, because in all the instances, regardless of what compliance standard it is, nobody cares what you did, they care about what you documented. So
Right.
you have the documentation, that's what you're providing. And so if you do that, it's very hard for the insurance company to come back and say, well, you weren't maintaining your environment correctly. You're like, of course I did. Here's all my documentation.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. Okay, Kirsten, do you hear me? I don't hear you still. I can see you now.
So I see another question while she's doing that as well. Are MSPs making money on it? Absolutely. This is a revenue generating opportunity. So this is not a pass through. Again, there's different ways to make money. So whether you include it into your standard fee and then you just raise the price. So I've seen some MSPs, they'll add $20 per user. And once again, you're selling or billing, I should say, for the policy separately. That's a pass through, or you can have the Chubb do it directly to the end customer. What you're doing is you're selling a service around it, and that service I've seen MSPs charge anywhere between about $15 to $25 per user to provide evidence of compliance. I've seen some MSPs just charge a flat fee, so it's depending on the size of the organization. They'll charge $200 a month or $300 a month. Again, depending on the size of the organization to maintain that compliance. I've also seen MSPs where they just take a flat percentage off whatever the policy cost is. So if the cost of the policy is $300, they'll charge 50% of that, so $150 a month to maintain it. So it's like insurance on top of the insurance to do that. So we've got different models, and we have a whole run book on how to position, price, sell compliance as a service around a cyber insurance policy.
So is this something that an MSP can sell to someone who isn't a client yet? And they come across a business that's not one of their clients, and they say, the client, this business says, I just want the cyber insurance, and that's it. Is that something the MSP is able to sell to them through you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, not only something that they can sell, but as we all know, trying to go in and sell a commodity service to somebody who already has that service is difficult. Right. As I mentioned at the beginning of this call, still today, roughly 70% of end customers don't have a cyber insurance policy. So as an MSP, for prospecting purposes, it's fantastic to be able to go in there and say, okay, well, I know you already have another MSP, and that's fine. They're providing those services, but you really need to have cyber insurance with everything that's going on today. I can provide you a service around that. I can sell you a policy. I can bind a policy. I can sell you a service around it. And that's how you get your foot in the door. And then 6 months later, you go back and say, hey, by the way, I also offer all these other services. And you had an MSP. They weren't even concerned about your liability and exposure and risk, because if you had a data breach, either you'd have to eat the cost or the MSP would have to eat the cost. And that's not a good conversation for anybody. I'm forward thinking. I've been offering this service to all my customers. In fact, it's part of my entire managed service, all-in holistic offering. Wouldn't you rather come over to a company that's forward thinking and concerned about your risk and liability and exposure and everything else that I do? So again, it's a great way of getting in. And in fact, what we found with compliance in general, 18 months into a compliance as a service, 50% of end customers end up switching to the MSP's full service offering.
Wow, that's really great. That's definitely a good foot in the door.
Yeah, it's great if you're the one at MSP that's doing it. It's not very good if you're an incumbent MSP and you're not offering that solution.
Yeah, totally. Kristen, I see you. I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead and do you hear me okay? Yeah. Hold on, I hear you now. Hold on. I am bringing you in. All right, there we go. Got you. Welcome. Okay. So I hear a little bit of an echo. I think there's something that needs to be muted at some point, or maybe there's another device that should be turned on. Oh, now I don't hear you. Dang it.
So, well, hopefully I was holding down the fort okay. If you give me a thumbs,
you were, yeah.
Okay, great. Appreciate that. And I do see Alex, or sorry, we had a question or comment said, cool, then the billing can be done through the client or the MSP, correct. So you have the ability to have Chubb bill the end customer directly, or they can bill you and you can pass that cost off. So again, my personal recommendation is that you want Chubb to bill you as an MSP, and so that way you're kind of the single point of pass through and point of contact for all the billing. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, then you can just have Chubb bill the customer directly.
Perfect. And then Matt wants to know if the MSP is doing the mapping, data collection, documentation, data entry for the client.
Correct. Yep. So that's exactly what our software does. You install our software, scans the environment, does all the data collection. Now, again, the first time that you run this We recommend you allocate about 10 labor hours the first month, and that will fill out all the forms, that'll generate all the documents, it'll again provide you all your evidence of compliance, and then the compliance manager software stays on the customer's environment. It rescans every month automatically. It identifies any new risks or any updates where you're no longer, quote unquote, showing due care. And so we recommend you allocate about an hour a month thereafter. So it's not quite set it and forget it, but it's about an hour a month thereafter. And that's the service. That's what we provide.
That's definitely helpful for a lot of MSPs to even just try to use it to get into the door for businesses, because businesses sometimes don't want to switch, and it just sounds like something really useful. Absolutely.
Yeah, great for prospecting. And I'll also say, besides it's great for prospecting, it is also a fantastically sticky service model. So think about, how often do you change your insurance company? The whole point of insurance is that you have it and you hope you will never have to use it. But when you do, then you hope that it's there. And so, I've been with my car insurance company, I think, for probably 14 years. Never had an accident, but I don't want to even go switch because I'm comfortable with them. They just take my payment every month. And it's Geico. So yeah, there's a quote for Geico, but from everything I hear, there's an issue. Geico's really good. So I'm comfortable with them. So it's the same type of thing. Once you get them into a, cyber insurance as a service, they hopefully pay every month. They never have an incident, but it's peace of mind that they're paying for.
Absolutely. So when the insurance company gets involved, if there's a claim, it's not the MSP, or what involvement does the MSP have if there's a claim from the client?
Yeah, it's a great question. For the most part, once there is a breach and you file, whether it's the MSP or the end customer files a claim, the MSP really just sends the evidence of compliance, and then they turn it over to the insurance company. As I said, Chubb is a multi-billion-dollar company. They have thousands of lawyers on staff. They have thousands of techs that are manning their incident response desk. They'll take over from that point. They'll work with the MSP. So if there's a malware event or crypto locker, they'll work with you on whether or not they recommend you pay for it, you don't pay for it, how they go about remediating it. But for the most part, you just turn it over to Chubb, and they take care of it. Or whoever you're using as your underwriter if it's not through CySurance.
Right. So these MSPs don't need to be an expert in cyber insurance to do this.
No, absolutely not. I would recommend they not go down that route. Not that I'm negative on insurance, but MSPs have enough to do. I don't think they really need to become insurance experts.
Yeah, especially when they have you or Kirsten available to help them and guide them through this. So why try to do that?
Yeah, and again, I would say, and they also have, they have the largest cyber insurance underwriter in the world, Chubb, and their incident response desk, and that's what they do all day, every day. So they can call them if they bind a policy through CySurance. They have access to them at any time, not just during a breach. So they can call them, they can ask them for advice, and they're available to do that.
Now, do they pay ransoms or cover ransoms?
So I believe the answer to that is yes. Again, I'll defer to Kirsten specifically, but yeah, as part of that offering is that there's the ability for them to pay the ransom as well.
Okay, I see Kirsten's back on, but I don't know if I could hear. Nope, I don't hear you yet. Well, so let me ask you this. Okay, so I had this question in my head, and it just like popped out for a minute. What is the process if someone if one of these MSPs doesn't have your tool yet? What is the process for being able to add in this entire package, the way that this is going down with CyInsurance and of course RapidFire? So
are you talking about how do they acquire the Compliance Manager platform? Just send me a check. I make it out to cash. You can send it to me. No, it's actually very simple. If you are a existing RapidFire Tools customer, you can contact your account manager or your sales rep. They'll be happy to give you a demo, price out the product. I don't know if you want me to go into pricing, but we're really straightforward when it comes to the pricing side of it. If you have any other Casaya family of company products, so if you're an IT Glue or ID Agent or VSA or BMS or any other, Casaya family customer, just reach out to your account manager there. They can help you as well. Obviously, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. But from a compliance manager perspective, our product is really straightforward. It is a standalone product. You don't have to have any other Casaya products or Rapfire tools or anything like that. So you could just get on board. But the way that we price it is just, it's a flat fee for the entire compliance manager platform. So not only do you get cyber insurance, but you get all the standards that we support today. So that's HIPAA, cyber insurance, GDPR, NIST cybersecurity framework. And then whenever you get in, you are also grandfathered for any new standards that we come out with in the future. So we have a pretty aggressive roadmap for things that we're going to be delivering this year. You get a certain number of customer licenses or customer sites as part of your investment. And you also get access to what we call powered services, which is all of our marketing collateral, sales enablement collateral. So everything I mentioned, your price books, your run books, your sales slicks, your graphics of the week, and so on. And then, there's no commitment on the SciSurance side. So once you get the compliance manager platform, in order to bind a policy, you can have none, and then you can just start off with one policy. And as soon as you do that, then all of a sudden, again, you're now offering that service. And one other benefit is that if you do end up binding a policy through SciSurance, through Compliance Manager, you will get $100 per year marketing credit from SciSurance for each policy that you've bound, and that renews every year as the policy renews. So it's a great little bonus benefit to help you build out your compliance as a service practice.
Perfect. How do they utilize that $100 credit?
You can use it however you want. Yeah. You can't call it a commission because apparently when it comes to insurance, there's lots of regulations. You can't call it a commission or a referral payment or anything like that. So it is a marketing credit. You can use it for whatever you like.
Well, great. And so you're going to be at our upcoming virtual academy, right, Max?
Absolutely. I look forward to it. I think I told you I've been in this industry for 21 years, and just a couple months ago was my first time actually out in Bakersfield with real people. I think this is from like 2 months ago, right? Since I got back.
Yeah.
So
how did you like it?
Yeah, so I look forward to being there at the academy. Yeah. And in fact, actually the next event, I know the first one we talked about the NIST cybersecurity framework. At our next academy, our focus is going to be around cyber insurance, because right now that is just a very hot topic for every company that's out there. They have to protect themselves, and it's a great service for MSPs to deliver.
Right. So our virtual academy is May 11th through the 15th. We're going to have sessions and educational sessions throughout the week. The link is in the post to go ahead and register. It is at no cost, as a gift from us to all of the MSPs who want to join in and listen in and get educated for the whole week. And to add, we weren't able to get Kirsten. Kirsten, do you hear me? Yeah, okay, still don't hear you. So what I want to do, we will get rescheduled with Kirsten and do some technical solutions. We'll get the guys over here and start to see what's going on. But we'll get rescheduled and get Kirsten back on, so that we can talk about it again. And because I know that you have a lot of great feedback and information to give our viewers. So I definitely want to get you back on here. So we'll get that rescheduled, and I'll make sure that we put that out there on our social media pages and of course email. We had a lot of great questions, and I think that this is a really great product, and I'm excited for these MSPs to be protected as well.
Yeah, appreciate it. As always, thank you very much for inviting me and having me on. And again, if there's any other questions, you can reach me at max.pruger@casaya.com. So feel free to reach out. Happy to answer any additional questions you may have. And I look forward to our next event without technical difficulty.
Thank you guys for watching. I see Matt, Nathan, Tim, a whole bunch of people watching. So really thank you for watching. And we will be back live pretty soon here.
All right, great. Have a great day and be safe.